There should be an intro here, but I couldn't be bothered to make one, so here you go. Might want to brace your backsides for this one, because we've got more hot takes. Also, thank you for the whole 2,000 subscribers thing. Long setups are better than the shorter setups. I kind of agree, but I think it mainly depends on the context, like what map is what. Like, I'd rather set up on a map like Shadows of Evil than Blood of the Dead, even though they both have long setups, in the same way that I'd rather set up on Der Riese or Ascension rather than Kino Toten. So it really just depends on the map. Some Black Ops 4 maps are really underrated, underappreciated, especially Voyage and Dead of the Night. Okay, well, I disagree with those two maps. I think those aren't really, underrated at all. Maybe Dead of the Night, although Voyage is definitely disappointing, especially for me. Although I really do think that Ancient Evil and 9, and even Classified, to be honest, they're pretty underappreciated gems in my opinion, and I don't think the Black Ops 4 mechanics really hold those maps back from being fantastic. I wish that there was a wonder weapon for every player on Revelations. Holy shit, that would make the map incredibly overpowered. Especially if you add the Wonder Waff, like you said. Like, yeah, the Wonder Waff's not spectacular, but it's still an infinite damage wonder weapon, even if it's one of the weaker ones. So, and it would beg the question as to what weapon would you add for the player 4? Maybe the wave gun or like the baby gun, but either way, it would instantly make Rev from one of the easiest maps to the #1 easiest if you were to do that. The Great War Zombies map would have been so boring. I feel like people talk about the Great War map like what could have been, and they kind of chat shit about Revelations as a result, how it didn't meet their expectations. I feel like I'm the only person that just doesn't give a shit about the Great War map, like I just don't care. I'm perfectly fine with Revelations. I think it was a pretty okay ending to Black Ops 3, and then BO4 came along and kind of extended everything. I just like Revelations. I think it's a good-ass map, and I honestly don't give a shit about the Great War map. Would have loved to hear you talk about what makes the Giant a fun map as opposed to Kino, which you think is overrated. I mean, I just think the Giant has more personality to it. Like, it has the Primus crew. It's really beautiful. Like, you say what you want about the graphics. I know some people prefer Der Riese. I think the Giant is still quite beautiful in its own regard. High rounds are more interesting. You can use double pack-a-punch, or you can use the Wonder Waff. You have the iconic catwalk strat. Like, Kino is just so dull that it hurts. I just really like the Giant, and the fact that it's on Black Ops 3, the systems are just more polished. Mob of the Dead is not overrated, it's perfectly rated. No, I think Mob is overrated. Don't get me wrong, it's still fantastic and it's easily in my top 5, but yeah, it is overrated. People ride Mob of the Dead so hard, but it's not as good as the other, like, S-tier maps. And then D Machine is the most underrated map. Yeah, I don't really agree with that. I think people pretty much love D Machine. They acknowledge it was one of the best maps that Cold War had to offer, regardless of whether you liked or disliked Cold War. I feel like D Machine is kind of properly rated, if I'm honest. I think people mainly dislike it just because it's Cold War. But even the Cold War haters acknowledge that D Machine's great, so I don't really agree with this. Forsaken is a really fun map in Cold War, and in my opinion, the second best just after Mauer de Toten. I kind of agree with all of your points, but even with all of this it said, I think the map is just let down by the nonsensical map layout. Like, it just doesn't flow very well. Like, it's nice that you can go from anywhere on the map to the Pack-a-Punch machine, or anywhere from the Pack-a-Punch machine to spawn, or wherever you like. It's nice in that regard, how the areas are connected, but aside from having that one area of connection, there's really nothing else that the map has. And I think that saying that D Machine and Firebase Z suck by comparison, I really like D Machine. I think it's a fun, like, simple-ish. I know that all Cold War maps are simple, but I don't think Forsaken is as good as D Machine. The World at War Flamethrower is better than the Paralyzer? Fuck, that is a hot take. I mean, the Paralyzer I'd say is better on the low rounds, as they both have infinite ammo, and they both technically do, like, infinite damage in their own way. However, the Paralyzer does slow the enemies down, and obviously you can fly with it. So, I don't really... I guess it kind of depends on what player you are. Like, if you're gonna go for Easter eggs or something, then yeah, the Paralyzer's better. Largely because the Easter eggs didn't exist in World at War. But I think if you were to go for high rounds, the Flamethrower would be the better choice, just because of the cap on how many zombies there are per round, to be honest. Two takes here. We've got Blood of the Dead is a good map, expanded on Mob and added one of the best wonder weapons in the form of the Magma Gat. I mean, the Magma Gat's good, but I don't think it's one of the best wonder weapons. I don't even think it's, like, in the top 10 wonder weapons. Well, maybe top 10, but definitely not top 5. And even though it expanded on Mob, it also took out some of the things things that made Mob so iconic, like the bridge and the plane. So I don't really know about this one. It's kind of a 50-50 for me, although I don't agree that Blood was a good map. I think that it was underrated, but there's a difference between underrated and good. And then Call of Duty World War II Zombies has the worst perk system. One word: Vanguard. Both BO1 and BO2 Zombies are mid experiences, but for different reasons. I think that I disagree with this. I think BO2 is a really good Zombies experience. It's definitely fantastic, and you know, more than half of the maps are actually really, really good. However, the same I can't really say with Black Ops 1. Like, I just think BO1 overall is a mid-game. There's nothing bad about it, but there's nothing, like, overly spectacular about it, especially from, like, 2023, like, in retrospect. So, I half agree with this one. Black Ops 2 movement system feels better than BO3? No. This is just straight up incorrect. Like, when you play Black Ops 2 from, like, a modern perspective, especially without stamina up, you really do feel how clunky the movement is by comparison. I think that BO3's movement system, like, the movement itself, like sprinting, running, feels exactly the same, but I think what helps the BO3 movement is just the slide. Like, sliding and jumping, it really does help the movement, and it makes it feel a lot more fluent than, you know, BO2's. The Rise and Drac over Origins, because there's no mud and the quests are better, even the Firebow. I mean, this is bullshit. Like, the Firebow is not a good quest at all, and I think that some of the quests are actually really good on the Rise and Drac, like, you know, the Stormbow, and especially the Voidbow. It's probably my favorite, although the mud really isn't that bad in Origins. Like, there's ways around it. Like, I understand people don't understand how Origins works, and they think that, you know, the mud is truly awful. Although, to be completely honest, I think the only reason people dislike the mud is just building the G-strikes. I think that's genuinely the only reason. Because aside from that, like, you can run from the starting room all the way to the excavation site without encountering any mud at all. So I think it's just, you know, this idea people have got in their head, and people don't think about it. They just run with it. I've never understood the hype for Shadows of Evil. Well, you just didn't play it then. You were playing the different map. You played the map with your eyes closed. Like, you just didn't understand it. Like, Shadows of Evil is probably the closest to a perfect map. Either Shadows or the Rise and Drac, closest to perfect map. Like, there's literally nothing bad about Shadows. Like, there are some things that aren't as good as other maps. I will agree with you on that. Like, I think the plot and the characters are a bit lackluster compared to, like, Origins or something. And the Easter egg, some of the steps I don't really like. But, again, those aspects are, like, mid at worst. Like, there is nothing bad about Shadows of Evil. If you say there's something bad about Shadows, you just didn't understand the map. Cold War is hated because it doesn't have the EVA storyline? Really? I think people hate Cold War because they accuse it of being multiplayer or Warzone Zombies. And that argument is gonna age extremely poorly when Modern Warfare 3 Zombies comes out, where it is quite literally Warzone Zombies. So I disagree with this. I think Cold War is hated or liked for different reasons. I don't think people give a flying fuck about the story, to be honest. Transit's overhated? No, it's not. Like, literally everything about Transit for me is like the opposite of Shadows of Evil, where literally everything about Transit is bad. Like, the Easter egg is bad. The characters are bad. Wonder Weapon, bad. Transportation methods, bad. High rounds, bad. Literally everything is bad. Map layout, awful. Like, the individual areas are just so ugly, it hurts. You know, you have Denizens, the Avogadro. Transit is a bad map. Like, I don't see why people are jumping on the defending wagon and, like, trying to defend Transit in 2023. I don't get it. It's a bad map. Firebase Z is a top 5 Zombies map. Okay, I'm possibly the biggest Cold War enjoyer that you will ever meet, but even I think that this is straight up bullshit. Like, to say Firebase Z is better than Mob, Shadows, The Rise and Drac, Origins, Buried, Ancient Evil, Mauer der Toten, like, there's just no cap. Like, no. Black Ops 3 weapons all feel like pea shooters. If it wasn't for double pack punch, people would realize that sooner or later they genuinely don't sound good when shot. I mean, the sounding good when shot thing, that's entirely subjective. There's nothing objective to criticize. If you don't like how the guns sound, I really can't criticize that. However, saying that the guns all feel like pea shooters, purely because Double Tap 2.0 is in the game, like, every weapon in BO3 is better than every weapon in World at War and, like, Black Ops 1, because there was no, like, the perk literally doubles your damage. Like, you can't argue with this. But also the fact that double pack-a-punch does exist. Technically, the Black Ops 3 weapons are, like, the best weapons ever. Like, you can use any one of them and get to, like, round 100 with double pack-a-punch. So, if you take double tap out of the equation, it still doesn't, like, help your case, because again, double tap 2.0. I'll just speedrun these. The last 3 maps of Black Ops 2 are better than all of BO3. So you're saying that Mob, Buried and Origins are better than all of BO3. This is just bullshit. Like, I would say that Origins is the only map out of those that come close to all of BO3. Because again, like, Origins is the closest to the BO3 maps in terms of, like, how the maps were made. And I would disagree with this. Like, yes, Buried and Origins are some of my favorite maps, but BO3 has, like, Shadows, Drak, Rev, Chronicles. It's not even close. Verrucht is one of the most underrated maps of all time. Yeah, I would agree with this. It's genuinely a fun time. And the Black Ops 3 version is one of my favorite maps ever. Drak is basically a copy of Origins, and Mob is kind of unoriginal. I mean, Mob is original, I don't really see that, but Drak is a copy of Origins? I mean, I guess. Like, it reuses the same, like, boss, the same, like, aesthetics, and it has 4 wonder weapons, but I mean, that's kind of all that Drak and Origins have in common, aside from the Primus crew. Mob is the best map of all time because every map after it copies at least one component of it. Okay, well, by your own logic, you're wrong, because by your own admission, Nachtron Toten would be the best map of all time because every map afterwards copied the zombies. Verrucht would be the best map because every map afterwards copied the perks. Shinonuma, the bosses. Doris, the Pack-a-Punch. You see what I mean? Like, I hate arguments like this because it's so easy to take apart. Like, Mob is not the best map of all time. First of all, let's get that straight. It is overrated in terms of gameplay. But again, saying that every single map afterwards takes a little bit from Mob, therefore Mob is the best, it's like, no, it doesn't matter. You could say that, you know, that's like saying Transit's the best map of all time because every map had the shield. Like, no. The Ray Gun Mark III is better than the Ray K. They're both technically the same, but the Mark III is more overpowered. Okay, the Mark III and the Ray K have fuck all in common. Like, one is a laser pistol with a blow dryer. When you put the two together, they become a black hole. The other one's a rapid fire laser rifle that slows enemies down. Like, they don't have anything in common. And also, the Mark III is not more overpowered. It's kind of difficult to compare the two because obviously you have the health cap in Cold War, whereas you don't in BO3. But even so, like, the Ray K will take you to round 100 easily in Cold War. The Mark III about round 50, 60 in BO3. So, no, the Ray K is more overpowered. It's not even a question. People like Black Ops 1 just for nostalgia, called the Dead and 5 the only maps worth playing. I mean, yeah, I would agree with that, purely because I think Chronicles improved the other maps. Like, I'm not going to play the BO1 versions of Kino or Ascension. I'm going to play the Chronicles versions because they're just better. Same with Shangri-La and Moon. I know people prefer Shang because of PhD, but I'm in the camp of people that thinks PhD is overrated and Widow's Wine's better. So, I don't know. I agree with this, but, like, again, there's not really a reason to play Call the Dead or 5 because, you know, Tag and Classified exists, so.
They're crap. Crap, mega crap.
I'm not even gonna bother reading these ones out because a part of my soul hates me, you know, just comprehending what you have said here. The Giant is better than Doris. Yeah, I'd 100% agree with this. I think the Giant is more unique and it has more to offer. I think the only thing that Doris is fondly remembered for is just nostalgia and the Pack-a-Punch machine. People tend to forget that in Black Ops 1 it's just completely soulless, and in World at War it has all the glitches that kind of ruin the map. So yeah, I would agree. The Giant is a more fun experience than Doris. 9 is the only bad zombies map. I mean, this just isn't true though. Like, 9 is a really good map, one of the best that BO4 has to offer, but like, you seriously don't think that the other maps are like bad? You think that 9 is the only bad map? So you're saying Duron Fong is better than 9? Terra Maledicta, Bus Depot Survival, Farm Survival, Transit. You think these maps are better than 9? No. Oh dear, here comes an outdated argument. Black Ops 1 is superior to Cold War. Cold War Zombies just feels like multiplayer with zombies. Well, good sir, you are going to be very disappointed for Modern Warfare 3 Zombies because that's quite literally what it is. Multiplayer zombies, or Warzone zombies, I guess, but Warzone is quite literally just multiplayer, just different. So, yeah, this is not true, although I think Cold War's maps are generally more fun. Like, Black Ops 1s are just so mid it hurts, whereas I think Mauer de Toten is more fun than all of BO1, to be honest. You dislike every Black Ops 4 map, it's the guns, zombies, mechanics, and there's no uniqueness, the guns feel so boring. Okay, well, you just haven't tried it, you know? You're just a Black Ops 4 hater, because you've only mentioned 5 things, and not a single one of them is relevant to the quality of any of the maps. So, literally, you're basically just saying you hate Black Ops 4 because of, like, the systems rather than the maps, which is stupid because if you disregard the systems, the maps themselves are actually really good. Ancient Evil 9, etc. being good examples of that. So I get this is just your opinion, but like it seems like you haven't given the game a fair chance. Mob's better than Origins? I mean, it clearly isn't though. Origins is better in most aspects to Mob, especially since even though they were both in BO2, Origins doesn't have the dog shit per art system, which is something that Mob does have. Like Origins has a lot more things going for it, like the staffs, the innovation was just mental on Origins. Like people lost their minds over Mob saying it innovated with like Afterlife, but then along comes Origins and there's just so much shit you can do on the map, and you never do all of it in one playthrough just because there's so much stuff to the map. Like you got so much for your money, it was insane. And yes, I don't think Mob is better than Origins. All the Black Ops 4 remasters suck. They borrow from other maps, but I don't understand with this. Like, I'm spitting over my own words because, like, you're basically saying the BO4 remasters suck because they aren't original, but it's like, what the fuck were you expecting? Like, they're remasters. Like, that's literally in the job description. But even so, I think that Classified was okay, and I think Alpha Omega was decent for high rounds, even if the map was shit. Tag, kind of mid. Blood, overhated. So, no, I don't agree with this. Shadows over DE changed my mind. I mean, I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not going to enforce my opinion on others. All I can tell you is that you're going to make quite a few enemies with that take, even if I agree with it. Oh, speaking of which, you guys only like Shadows of Evil because of nostalgia. Now, I can tell you never played Shadows on launch because Shadows on launch was one of the most hated maps of all time. I'm pretty sure it was more hated than Transit, and like people only played the Giant, so you clearly just didn't play BO3 on launch, because if you did, then you'd know that not many people liked Shadows on launch. I personally did. I thought the map was fine, but then again, I played Origins for years at that point, and I was just numb to the complicated map that Origins was, so Shadows of Evil didn't feel that bad. But again, like, Shadows is literally, like, Mob 2.0, so, like, I don't understand this take. It just feels like you're clutching at straws. Black Ops 4 Zombies is worse than Black Ops 1 and World War 2. It's just not true, is it? Like, I don't think you've played World War 2 Zombies, because literally every single map in that game is shit, and there's way less maps than on BO4. Same with BO1, like, yeah, there's more maps, but the maps themselves are just kind of lifeless. Like, the remasters from World at War just weren't anything special. The maps overall are quite mid. Like, Black Ops 4 was definitely inconsistent. However, at its peaks, it hit way higher peaks than Black Ops 1, so I would disagree with this. I think Black Ops 4's gameplay is just more enjoyable as well.
That is the dumbest idea you've ever had, and you have had some doozies!
Black Ops 4 is worse than Vanguard Zombies because it requires an internet connection to play. Oh yeah, because getting an internet connection in 2023 is such an impossible feat. Brain dead. And finally, we have Takeo Masaki as my favorite character in all of Call of Duty. All of Call of Duty, so not just Zombies, but campaign as well. I mean, I obviously disagree with this. Like, I don't play campaigns myself, but I've heard a lot of people really praise, especially the villains in, you know, the COD campaigns, but also, like, Captain Price is really iconic. But in terms of Zombies, for a second, I think Takeo, in terms of Ultimus, is one of the weakest characters. Like, he just doesn't have much growth until BO3 and BO4. And Primus Takeo, again, he was kind of annoying in Origins, and he didn't really do anything in, like, Der Eisendrache. But in Zetsubo, we really did get to grow to like him. We saw him interact with his alternate counterpart, and, you know, that was really, really good. It saw him questioning his own ideals and his own life choices and stuff. But again, outside of Zetsubo, there still wasn't much development to Takeo, so I would disagree with this. I still think he is the weakest Ultimus and Primus character, although he's definitely overhated. And this is where the outro should be if I could actually be bothered to make one. Maybe like, comment, subscribe, and check out some other videos from me. I'm serious, there's no outro. Why are you guys still here? It's not a Marvel movie, there's no post-credit scene. Okay, fine, I'll make an outro. Here you